Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. We talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Roach Jeffrey. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. There was breaking news yesterday with the Colorado Buffaloes announcing that they are returning to the Big 12. This is insane because of the fact you have all this realignment news going on that's happened over the past couple of years. You've had USC and UCLA going to the Big 10. You've had Oklahoma and Texas going to the SEC, and that's created a domino effect of teams like BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF going to the Big 12, and then you've also had other smaller schools moving to Conference USA and to the American. There's just been tons of movement everywhere. Realignment has spawned realignment, but now we finally had a move that's kind of not really related to the other moves that have occurred, even though this move probably wouldn't have happened if those moves hadn't occurred in the first place. Is Colorado going to the Big 12? And this is really interesting because Colorado fits in the Big 12. It makes absolute sense. They've been a Big 12 conference member for the entirety of that conference's existence, and back when the conference was the Big 8 and the other conferences that it was called before that, Colorado was a part of it. So that is the conference that they are most aligned with. Most people are used to associating Colorado with the other schools in the Big 12. Geographically, they make more sense in the Big 12, but geography doesn't really matter in realignment anymore because you're bringing USC, UCLA to the Big 10. So that makes absolutely no sense, but still geographically Colorado does make sense in the Big 12. But they went to the Pac-12 back in 2011, and it made sense kind of in a way because of the fact that the Pac-12 is a conference that has such great academics, and you make more money through those academics, and Colorado is a school that is on the upper echelon of schools in the Big 12 in academics, so they did fit kind of in the Pac-12, but they were kind of just a school that was way out in the middle of nowhere compared to where the other schools in the Pac-12 are, even though, again, geography does not matter that much, and they were getting a lot of California students to go to Colorado because of the academic improvement of being in the Pac-12, but unfortunately on the football field, Colorado was awful all throughout the time that they were in the Pac-12, and they struggled in basketball, and they struggled in other sports as well. Colorado was not getting it done in the athletics department while they were in the Pac-12, and you could say maybe going back to the Big 12 could help because Colorado can tap more into those Texas recruits again like they did in the past when they were in the Big 12, but when they were in the Pac-12, you would have thought they would have been able to get guys from California to go to Colorado kind of like they did with the students. So at the end of the day, I don't really know if Colorado's going to improve in the athletic department with the return to the Big 12, but regardless, that is where they are going. But why is this move being made? Because of the fact you look at all the other moves that have been made with realignment, and all of these schools have made a jump up in conference standings, whether you talk about USC, UCLA going to the Big 10 because they're making almost $100 million a year per school, whereas in the Pac-12, where they have not had anything going right lately in the money department, and the fact that they can't even get a media rights deal together, that's why USC, UCLA left, because they were not going to make nowhere near as much as they are in the Big 10. Oklahoma and Texas leaving the Big 12 to go to the SEC is because of money as well, because the SEC you're going to make a lot more money per school than in the Big 12. And Colorado, are they going to make more money in the Big 12? Maybe at first, because the Big 12 does have a media rights deal that has been made, and it is worth a decent amount, nowhere near as much as the Big 10 and the SEC, but still it is a solid amount, and the commissioner of the Big 12 is doing everything he possibly can to save this conference, and that's why Colorado going back to the Big 12 is a bad blow to the Pac-12, because there's no way they should have lost Colorado, because with the academics money that the Pac-12 receives, they should be way ahead of the Big 12. And this is one of the first times in college football history where a team has gone from a better academics conference back to a conference that is worse in academics. And that's what Colorado is doing going back to the Big 12. Academically, it doesn't really make sense. Financially, it makes sense right now. But if the Pac-12 can get it together and find a way to get a media deal that would be able to put them ahead of the Big 12, and maybe they can add teams like San Diego State, SMU, Boise State, UNLV, maybe they can save this thing. But the Pac-12 is a sinking ship. If they lose Oregon and Washington, Cal, and Stanford, Arizona, and Utah, teams like that, even half of those teams leave, the Pac-12 is gone as a conference, at least as a Power 5 conference. You can't even think of them as a Power 5 league. Maybe they will still exist in name only, but they will not be on the level of the other conferences. They aren't anyway, but at least you can say they can compete in a way with those other schools, especially in other sports. Definitely not in football, but it is what it is for the Pac-12. They made a lot of bad moves financially. The Pac-12 network was a disaster, and a lot of other things that they just did not do right? They did not keep USC, UCLA happy, and they're out the door. And now the Pac-12 is losing Colorado. And yes, Colorado isn't the biggest blow in the world, but it's just a trickling effect of the Pac-12 is starting to lose more and more of its teams. If they lose Arizona to the Big 12, if they lose Arizona State to the Big 12, what if they lose Oregon and Washington to the Big 10? If some of these other schools start to go, the Pac-12 might just make sense to merge with the Big 12. But why haven't they merged with the Big 12? Because the Pac-12 is academic standards. The Big 12's academic standards are much lower, so they just do not coalesce as two conferences together. That's why you had the failed Big 10, ACC, Pac-12 alliance. That was a complete farce because the Big 10 is way ahead of the ACC and the Pac-12, but the only reason why that was even in existence was because of the fact that those three conferences are much better in academics than the SEC and the Big 12. So if the Pac-12 would combine with any conference, it would make sense for them to combine with the Big 10, and it would make sense for the Big 12 to combine with the SEC, and maybe some of the ACC schools that aren't as good in academics, and some of the better academic schools would make sense to go to the Big 10 as well. But who knows what's going to happen in the future? We are rapidly merging toward two super conferences in the Big 10 and the SEC. I do not like that. I don't think most people like that, but unfortunately, once you've kicked the can down the road far enough, you can't really kick it back up the road. And the way it is looking right now, the Big 10 and the SEC are just way ahead of every other conference. Colorado going to the Big 12. This might be a quick fix for them to make more money with the Big 12 media rights deal, but I don't know if in the long run this is a good move for Colorado, because the Pac-12, they can get it together, maybe would have a better media deal, and the academics are still better in the Pac-12. But the Pac-12 is a sinking ship right now. At least the Big 12 does have more stability with the additions of Cincinnati, BYU, Houston, and UCF. It might be temporary, but the Pac-12 is in worse shape than the Big 12 as of right now. Maybe in the future the Pac-12 can get back ahead of the Big 12, but Colorado, maybe this is just a spur-of-the-moment decision by Colorado to go to the Big 12. There's even been talk that Deion Sanders might have been a part of the reason why Colorado has gone to the Big 12. I have no idea if that's true or not. It is kind of crazy that they're making the move right now when Deion has first been hired as the Colorado head coach, and the fact that just a week ago it was reported that Colorado was staying in the Pac-12 and they weren't leaving, but now they are going to the Big 12. I don't know if this is a great move. I think it's a lateral move. They might be making more money financially, and it might help their athletics programs out a little bit being in the Big 12, but academically this hurts big time for Colorado to return to the Big 12. I think it's about a 50-50 move. I think it helps a little bit, but maybe in the long run it might be a bad move. But at the end of the day, any team that's not in the Big 10 and the SEC right now is kind of in bad shape, and it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with the Pac-12 moving forward. Again, they are in a lot of trouble right now. The Big 12 is in better shape as of now, but things can change in a hurry, and it'll be really interesting to see at the end of the day what happens with all these conferences. Whether Colorado's move to the Big 12 will be a win or loss for the Buffaloes at the end of the day. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below what you think about Colorado moving from the Pac-12 to the Big 12, and whether you think it is a good or bad move by the Buffaloes to return to the Big 12, the conference they've been a part of for so long, and whether you think that the Pac-12 can be saved. Follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description, and I'll see you next time.